Well, I think transparent leadership is how I've built my company up from the start. And I think that permeates in how I interact with my team, how I've built the team, how we interact with our clients. And it really comes from a place of wanting to build close, honest, authentic, and collaborative relationships with everyone that I work with.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today, we're going to look at leveraging transparency to grow your business. What is transparency and why is it so important in today's leadership? Well, we're going to have that conversation with the founder, CEO of Magnetude Consulting. They're a B2B marketing firm. They focus on cybersecurity and some other tech-related industries. And Natalie and I talk about transparency. We talk about, how do we truly leverage this business transparency in a way that aligns people together, a way that connects with our customers and our values as well. We do unpack the whole concept of core values. She just went through a refresh of those things to see, are we still in alignment? The surprise around this is, yes, they are still in alignment, and they just wanted to reconfirm that as they move forward and as a team. Business transparency is something that you want to make sure that you understand. It is very powerful. Can you take it too far? Absolutely. Inside this episode, we describe what it looks like and what going too far maybe means to you. But the real point here is you've got to make sure that you are transparent with your team, because otherwise they will feel like you're hiding something and they will make up stories about what you're not telling them. And so being transparent is part of being a courageous leader. My job is to help you become the best leader you can be, help you be exceptional at leadership. I work with a lot of fast growth leaders and I help them in many different ways. One of them is executive coaching. I work with their teams. And if it's something you're curious about, make sure you reach out to me at genehammett.com and schedule your call today. If you are interested in getting coaching for your managers, we have a dedicated coach for that. We also have a program that we can put a group of people into, or a handful of people into, whatever works for you, to teach them the foundation of leadership. It involves real coaching and it involves real transformation as they become more confident, effective, and communicate much, much better through these programs. If you are curious about any of these things, just reach out to me at genehammett.com, schedule a call. Let's talk about what's really going on in your business. I've been doing this for over a decade. I know I can help you. Now, let's dive right into the conversation with Natalie. Natalie, how are you?
Great. Thank you. Good to be here.
I'm excited to talk to you about your values, especially transparency, and we're going to dive into that. But first, tell us a little bit about your company, Magnetude Consulting.
Yeah. So I started the company 10 years ago. We are a B2B tech marketing consultancy. I work across the tech sector, but very heavily in cybersecurity and emerging and disruptive tech. And when I started the firm, it was really to bring a different kind of marketing solution to SMBs and high growth companies and really bring them a fractional marketing department.
Well, marketing is something a lot of companies struggle with. And I'm just kind of curious, what do you wish CEOs knew about marketing that they don't seem to know?
I think there's a couple areas. I think one is that marketing, when thought about correctly, can really become a strategic growth engine to the business. So there's the execution side of marketing, campaigns and programs and all of those sorts of things. But really looking at marketing holistically at how it can help latch onto market trends, launch into new markets, position the company differently. So thinking about marketing more holistically than I think some folks do. And another area is really how specialized marketing has gotten these days. So, in the past, it was possible to have maybe one marketing generalist in-house at a smaller company, and they could do a little bit of everything. And unfortunately, that doesn't often tend to work as well as intended these days.
I know we're going to talk mostly about your style of leadership and how you use core values around your team that create the kind of growth. But I want to go one more question into this, because I think, marketing is just such a hard thing for us to understand. The next 3 years, if you had to put your crystal ball in front of us, what do you think is going to be different in marketing than it is today?
So I think the biggest change is technology driven, just like many business functions and many facets of industry today. But look at what's going on with things like ChatGPT and just the proliferation of AI and what that can do for any kind of marketing communications. I think we're about to see a big forward trajectory in that department.
I don't disagree with that. I've been showing this to the clients and they've been in awe, especially when you go into ChatGPT and say, give me 10 headlines that are funny, because I didn't think they could actually do that. But it actually comes out. I'm not saying all of them are, rolling the floor laughing, but it's pretty interesting to see how this is changing the dynamics.
It is.
Natalie, all that being said, let's dive into why we're here. Is you believe that transparency is an important aspect to you and your team. Why is transparency important to the growth of the company?
Well, I think transparent leadership is how I've built my company up from the start. And I think that permeates in how I interact with my team, how I've built the team, how we interact with our clients. And it really comes from a place of wanting to build close, honest, authentic, and collaborative relationships, with everyone that I work with.
Now, transparent leadership is something that comes up quite often. What does it really mean to you?
It's about being authentic and genuine to who I am as a person and bringing that to my leadership, bringing that to the kinds of decisions we're making as an organization, how I show up for my team, how I face difficult situations, and really just looking at leading by example is one of the ways I often think about it.
I often talk about the transparency line. Let me frame that in for those of you. It's where we believe that something's either too transparent to share, or we believe it's okay to share. And that line is different for all of us. It's different in different subjects. Personally, I don't talk about my sex life with different people. It's where I put my transparency line, but I'll talk about my emotions. When you think about your transparency line, how would you describe where it is in a business sense?
Yeah, it's a great distinction. I think about business transparency, right? So what is the right level of information for the recipient, but also doing so in a respectful and authentic way. So the information that you share with someone who has just joined the company might look different than someone who's been with me for the last 10 years, and the history that they know and the context that they need to be successful and to learn what they need in the role.
What do you think gets in the way of transparency?
I would say lack of empathy or desire to understand is one area on the recipient's part. So when you believe the receiving party may not understand that, you have to kind of couch the information that you share. The other folks not being kind of authentic or genuine, it becomes an escalation of one person's not being transparent or genuine. The other person starts holding back information as well, and that can spiral downward.
Now, Natalie was just talking about what gets in the way of transparency. I want to talk about something that I feel like is important, and it really is the transparency of conversation. So most people think financial transparency is what is necessary, but you want to make sure that you're having an open dialogue, a two-way bit of transparency between your people. You want to be able to give them feedback for things that aren't in alignment with the standards of the company or the values of the company or the work that they're doing for the customers. Maybe it's an attitude that they're bringing. Maybe it's something that you have seen getting in the way, personal relationships. Whatever it may be, you want to open yourself up to have these kind of conversations that are transparent and honest and candid, direct. This will help you be a stronger leader. Now, I also believe it should be two ways. They should be able to talk to you about these things too. Where are your shortcomings? Where could you grow? Where are the things that you don't see? And opening yourself up to that is very courageous. Just my 2 cents. Just thought I'd share that with you about transparency inside of today's interview. Now back to Natalie. Do you embrace financial transparency in your company?
We do.
How would you describe that?
So it starts with sharing, revenue and growth plans, goes down into sharing the P&L for the company. And it's one of those areas that over the years, I've opened up the kimono more and more to the team and have seen more value from it. So it gives everyone in the organization the understanding and the ownership of how their role, their work kind of dovetails into the broader company's goals. Thinking specifically about the folks involved in our marketing and sales efforts. the more that they know and the more that they understand of the thinking, the more they understand how we're doing, how we're projecting, the better we can all act together. And we often talk about rowing in the same direction. And that's exactly what sharing that kind of information helps us do.
What about the things that you don't want to share, the things that scare you, the things that you feel like, if they knew that, then they wouldn't see me the same way, or they wouldn't see the company or the future the same way? You run into those moments as it relates to transparency?
I do. And I think I'd be inhuman if I didn't. There's a quote that I'll probably botch right now, and I don't remember the author, but it's keep your fears to yourself, but share your courage with others. And that's one that's always stuck with me. And I think there's a level of, fear and vulnerability that you do have to share. And that's part of, again, showing up as a genuine leader. It's also understanding with whom you should share that. So sharing things with my leadership team is a bit different than kind of the some of the other folks on the team or folks that are kind of newer to the organization. But I think the reality is we're all adults, we're all professional, and we're all working towards the same goals. And so the more that I can share, I think the better we'll be for it.
Today, we're talking about leveraging business transparency with you, Natalie. And I want to back up a level because I think one of the things that you believe in is really living by your core values. What does it mean to live by the core values of your company?
To me, the word core in core values is very important. And I think of kind of having an inner core from which you're kind of making decisions and engaging with others. And we are, a consulting firm. So our people are really kind of essentially the product and kind of the way we engage with clients. And so for us, it's very important that we, as an organization, share the same values and are kind of interacting in certain ways with our clients. And in that regard, they know what to expect from us. And I also, being the founder, really developed a lot of the core values from my own personal values. And so for me, it's been very natural to extend that to my team and then to look for other people who are similarly minded in terms of those values. It's not to say we don't come at it from different angles, that we don't have different personalities. There's a lot of diversity in kind of the makeup of the team, but the values really gives us the same core from which we operate.
I mentioned to you that I've been writing a book for a while, and it's probably not the next book I'm writing out because I'm always researching and got a couple of things that I want to do before that. What would you say is your most interesting way to use the values if we looked into your organization? Is it in meetings? Is it in hiring, onboarding? Is it recognizing people? How do your values show up day in and day out?
Yeah, I would say it's really a lot of those areas. And I think it really does follow the life cycle from first conversation with the candidate through kind of day-to-day interactions with team members. We did recently update our core values and really just give it a refresh. We went through a company rebrand a couple of years ago and wanted to make sure our values were keeping pace. The interesting thing we found was that the values that I had set out, in our first year and a half in business, had stayed very true to who we were. So it became more of a refresh and synthesization than kind of an overhaul. But really looking at that through the lens of our team and involving kind of a bigger subset of our team in making sure we're aligning to those.
Updating your core values is a very interesting experience. I recently did this for a client. They didn't have the best core values in the beginning. They were kind of stale, I guess, integrity and honesty and things like that. And so we actually went through a process that I'm going to share with you very simply. And if I can help you in any way, I'd love to help you. I'd love to help you and your team and facilitate the conversation around this. But here's the framework we used. I had a conversation to them about the importance of values, and we set the tone in a virtual experience. I gave them a list of words to look at and to consider and to select which ones most align with who they are today. Now, we made a distinction between aspirational values and those that we truly are. We can have a mixture, but we want to make sure that we actually have a lot of the values that made us who we are today inside this. We got together live in person, some virtual, I guess, because it was kind of a mixture, hybrid, if you will. And we talked about the values, and we took the long list of values and we narrowed it down to top 10. And it took a long time. People were defending this, and it was great. It was actually very beautiful to go through and see where people were with their values. And then we went through the process of narrowing it down and debating and wordsmithing and shaping these things until we got to 7. And then I told them to sit with it. And then after a week, they came back and there was only one small change that was made and said, this word choice isn't the best. We wanted to exchange this word for this one. And now it's locked down and it's ready to share with the team. One piece behind this I want to make sure that you understand is if you include other people into it, it is a real power aspect of ownership. They take more ownership if they're included into it instead of handed the values. And your executive team can be included no matter where you are in this process. And that's the process we took to refresh the values. And I wanted to share it with you. Now back to Natalie. When you think about, recognizing people and rewarding them throughout this to be in alignment with the values, do you guys do anything special there?
So we have quarterly team recognition that's nominations from peers. And we have recently updated those so that they do align with nominating someone for achievement against a core value. And that's been a way not only for that person to get appreciated for aligning to that, but it really does help keep it top of mind. Everyone's thinking about that. They're looking for how are my colleagues showing up against a certain value.
How do you use values externally?
So when we work with our clients, starting in our business development process, we have a very consultative and thoughtful engagement with prospective clients. And we really want to make sure that we're bringing the right clients on. And there's a number of components to that, right? Making sure we can be successful on their behalf and we're setting the right expectations and all of that. But part of that is also cultural alignment. And when I look back to the clients that we've been working with for many years, we may not share, every single, core value with one another, but we do share quite a few. And I think that drives same kind of positive relationships that we can have with our colleagues internally in the interactions with our clients.
I'm glad you bring that up because I don't think a lot of people understand that that's an important piece to it. Because if you brought on a client that has a very different approach to, let's say, transparency, then it would be frustrating for you and your team.
Yeah, certainly. And I think thankfully you could usually draw that out a bit in a sales process, right? By the questions you ask and the interactions, and you can learn a lot about a person and kind of their culture just through those kind of discussions.
Are you an Inc. 5000 CEO looking for a unique experience? My hope is that you want to take your business to the next level. You want to gather with other Inc. 5000 CEOs, which just isn't available in most of the peer groups that you're probably able to connect with. But when we get together, it's an intimate group of people that are growing their businesses. We're learning from each other about strategy, about execution, leadership, culture, and all things growth. Plus, we actually design this to have deep conversations to get to the real issues so that you can really grow your business. And we do something fun. We take time to race Porsche 911s. You'll be paired with a professional driver. It'll be something that you can do that's very different than you've ever done before. Join us for this event. It's invite only, but find out more details at genehammett.com/events. I want to talk about you specifically, Natalie, as we begin to wrap up today's conversation. It's just, your style of leadership. What is something that you've learned over your years about yourself and about how you lead others? What comes to mind first?
The first thing that comes to mind for me is that I consider myself a risk-averse entrepreneur. And I know that for some that can be an oxymoron. So I pay attention to the concerns or the things that might be holding me back. But then I also have made a deliberate effort over the years to try to push through those, but to do so in a way that's comfortable enough, I should say.
How does that show up with your transparency?
So I think that's what's allowed me to have and show more vulnerability to my team over the years. And also, as the business has continued to grow and we've seen success, trusting my own kind of instincts and my gut more and more over the years as well as that of the close confidants I work with.
I know I'm going to throw you off guard, and I don't want you to share anything you don't want to share, but I'm kind of curious about a place or a story inside your leadership where you being vulnerable was scary, but it actually was really good. Has something come to mind that you could share with us today?
I don't have I would say a slam dunk answer that comes to mind. I think one area, so I'm a mother of two young kids. I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. My company is 10 and a half years old. So they've kind of grown up in a world where I'm building and running a business. And I think in the earlier days, I would try to keep the two very separate and not want to show kind of too much of my kind of motherhood or kind of personal life in work settings with clients, with my team. And I think over the years have really been able to bring more of, all of me to my interactions and do so, happily and confidently, and in a way that also has allowed my team to do the same.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us today. I appreciate you being here and just opening up, being honest about, how to really leverage and use transparency to grow the business.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic time with her talking about leveraging business transparency, what that really means for your business, what it means for the bottom line. Hopefully you took notes. Hopefully you have something to execute on. And I'm really excited about you being more transparent. It is a very powerful way to be as a leader. If you're not transparent, you're hiding something, I think. I'm not saying that you don't, that you share everything, got a little tongue tied there. But what I am saying is that transparency is a powerful way of leading a team. And you want to make sure you use it well. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, with courage. We'll see you next time.